Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile. And today I wanted to talk about the Dark Dreams Divination card that has been commissioned by supporter CapelX65, or at least that player has taken credit for it on Reddit. Firstly, I want to say I love the flavor text of this, and as always, the Divination card art is an absolute, knocks it out of the park. But I really like the idea. Nobody ever truly understood what she meant when she said she wanted to raise a family. Really, it sounds so nice at first until you realize that this is about a necromancer raising an entire family from the dead to serve as mindless minions. Now, firstly, this is for a bone helmet that is rare and that is an elder item. If you're not familiar with how divination cards work, the item level will match the character level that turns it in, except it will be hard capped to item level 80. So in practice, given that this is not going to be a set that you can compile very easily, like say the Tabula Rasa divination card set, this will be item level 80 if you turn it in through natural gameplay. The only way you would get lower than item level 80 is if you level up a second character and then decide that you'll turn in the set on the lower level character. And can I suggest you don't do that? There's no real benefit to doing so. If you turn it in below level 68, I believe all of the Elder mods are not available, and even then, if you turn it in between 68 and 79, you're just going to be knocking out good mods. You're not really knocking out anything that you would like. I'll come back to the mods that can roll later, but the key thing is that this is not item level 86. Item level 86 would be a much better reward, but would also be a much rarer card. And it's clear from the comments that the designer has made on Reddit that they were looking for something that was not mega rare. Say, for instance, like the Celestial Stone Divination card, which is a set of 10 for a Shaper Opal Ring, item level 86. And from my memory, I'd have to check this, but I believe it drops from the Pit of the Chimera map about 1 in 100 runs or something like that. So it's quite a rare divination card. It's a big reward for running the map that it drops from, and don't take my word for it on it being Chimera. I'm not confident I'm right, but it's a good reward when you get it. But this will come up much more often. You might get this once every 10 maps or something like that. In any case, bone helmets are one of the Atlas of Worlds bases, so it's locked to certain maps, and it usually will be an octant of the Atlas, so it might be everything between Northwest and North that can drop bone helmet in a given league, and then the next league, when the Atlas reshuffles, all of the maps that it drops in will change. Minions deal 15 to 20% increased damage on what is otherwise an armor and evasion shield base. Minion damage is something that you can use on its own, or you can use it in conjunction with the Spiritual Aid passive on the passive tree, and then gain the benefit to all of your skills. So increases and reductions to minion damage also affect you, amongst other things. This node also gives 15% minion damage, so it's 15% damage in any case. Now, I want to start by pointing out just how rare Elder bone helmets are. So I've picked two different searches on PoE.trade. Firstly, I've done a search in the Synthesis League for the Unnatural Instinct Viridian Jewel, which is the most expensive unique item that can drop anywhere in the game. This is, or at least at the time of recording this video, it is a Tier 1 Rarity unique, which means that it's as rare as uniques get, and it can drop anywhere, and it has no divination card for it. Ignore the prices here. The key statistic is that there are 219 of them, and this is including both players that are online and offline at the moment. Because Synthesis League is sort of in the wind down stage at the moment, most of the people that own this and have it for trade are currently not logged on, so I've included offline searches. 219 of them. Now I've done the same search looking for Elder bone helmets, and we have less. So that should give you a sense of just how rare this item potentially is. Oh, sorry, just how rare Elder bone helmets currently are. However, divination cards can make them much more accessible. I did a check on item level 86 plus Shaper Opal Rings, which have a Divination card, namely the Celestial Stone, and I compared it to item level 86 plus Elder Opal Rings, which do not have a Divination card. The number available for the Shaper Opal Rings was 87, the number available for the Elder Opal Rings was 2. So that should give you a sense that the vast majority of Elder influenced bone helmets that exist in the game will probably come about from this Divination card. So in terms of ways that you could use this a helmet sourced from this item, firstly, you could use it with minions, or you could use it with Spiritual Aid. Now, Spiritual Aid amps up heralds, which is quite difficult to do via other means. And so for that reason, if you're wanting to play a build that seriously scales up Herald of Ice or seriously scales up Herald of Thunder, those are the two that get scaled up the most that could be in a helmet, then this is worth considering. Alternately, it can also be used with Herald of Agony, which scales the most with levels. However, there's reasons I don't think that's a very good idea, so I won't really go into that in depth. Just to say that I believe if you want to play a Herald of Agony build, you should either put your Herald of Agony in your bow or in your chest armor, whereas this Divination card doesn't help you with that, because it doesn't... I mean, you might still want to use a bone helmet for the plus 15 to 20% increased minion damage, but you would probably do better putting your not necessarily using an Elder one, and putting your main skill, your Herald of Agony, into a bow or a 6-link. So that's the first thing you can do, is you can use it directly with minions, or you can use it with Spiritual Aid. I don't think that this is going to be forever gear for players. This is going to be something, and a helmet that's crafted from this Divination card is going to be something you will aspire to improve from. However, I think it's something you will use for a long time. And obviously, for many players, it will not be possible to upgrade beyond this, because item level 86 bone helmets that are Elder items will be incredibly rare. So let's have a look at the various mods that this can roll. This is the website PoEDB, which contains information that's been data mined, so it's been ripped out of the game client and contains information on what is available to roll on various items. This is moderately well organized. You'll see that when you click an item, if there's a lot of different ways that you can get mods from that family, it's a total mess. So, clicking Maximum Life, where you've got Essences, you've got Jun Crafts, you've got Helena Crafts, and you've got a whole bunch of different roles, is a bit of a mess. However, what does tend to work better is various roles that are much more straightforward. So here we can bring up the various pseudo supports. One of the major benefits of Elder items is these pseudo support roles, such as socketed gems. You have 19 to 22% increased area damage, and socketed gems are supported by level 18 concentrated effect. These are a major pull towards using Elder items. Elder items have the best pseudo supports that are available for most builds. Elder items have a couple of options that increase damage, like concentrated effect. A couple of minion themed ones, minion damage, minion life. Less duration is also in the concentrated effect category, and it also has a number of fire ones. So when we open up this, you'll see that although this is listed on PoEDB as being ignite duration and immolate, it includes both ignite duration, immolate, and also the burning damage support. Now, the actual level of the supported pseudo support gem is set by the tier of roll that you get. So, for instance, if you were to roll this line on the item, so let me just click that properly. If you roll this mod on an item, you'll notice that level 20 immolate is locked in. 17 to 20% increased ignite duration is something that can be divined, but level 20 is locked in. That can't be divined. It's a separate roll to get level 18. One thing that's very important is that immolate is highly sensitive to the gem level. It scales in the same way as spells, so Immolate Support, if you're not familiar with it, because it's been off meta for a while, what it does is it adds an amount of flat fire damage to attacks that you make against enemies that are already burning. Now, because it adds flat fire damage, it will often set the enemy on fire again as well. So you need to get the enemy on fire somehow, and then Immolate adds a lot of extra damage and is pretty reliable. It's not used very much because it doesn't add enough extra fire damage to be worth the hassle in most cases. However, it's pretty easy to set enemies on fire too. You can set them on fire with anything from Righteous Fire, Vile Righteous Fire, through to just using a different fire skill as your starter. So let's just bring up Immolate Support so that you can get a sense of the sort of numbers that it does, because the numbers are very high. Now, here we go. If we scale down, we've got a level 20 support deals about 255 average added fire damage to enemies that are already burning, whereas a level 18 version does about 235, so it's about 8% less. And a level 16 one, it's still a lot of damage at level 16 as well. So like I say, it's an off-meta support gem, but when you're getting it, just for the cost of 20% of one suffix on your helmet, plus 20% mana cost on your skill, it's actually quite compelling to use it. So, in terms of the way that I would consider crafting helmets with these, if you want to target these rolls, it's worth your while considering using a Scorched Fossil. Scorched Fossils add a couple of extra fire mods that can now roll. So importantly, 9% to the -9% to the fire resistance of nearby enemies. So that's basically 9 points of fire penetration, which is really useful. Although it doesn't work for enemies that are a long way away from you. So if you're using projectile skills that fire a long way, that won't help you. If you're using minion skills and your minions are off screening for you, then that won't help. But if you're killing monsters up close and personal, aka a melee patch, then this is a compelling mod to try to roll on your Elderbone helmet. But as well as adding those new mods, the other thing that the Scorched Fossil does is it makes fire modifiers 10 times as likely to roll as they otherwise would be. The actual number 10 times is something that's been data mined, and I trust the data mined information, although I've got no personal verification of that. So that means that fire mods, mods that are tagged with fire, such as this here, +% to fire resistance, are all 10 times as likely to roll. And you'll see here that there's quite a number of compelling fire rolls here. So Socketed Gems are supported by burning damage. Maybe you'll have a use for that, as well as Immolate. So that's something that's really powerful, and you can keep rolling these because Scorched Fossils are cheap. At least they normally are cheap. You can throw a lot of them at an item. You can also consider throwing in a Bound Fossil as well. Bound Fossils are quite compelling to use. Firstly, they give you the Reduced Reservation, which is an incredibly, incredibly powerful suffix that you can roll. Secondly, they make the Socketed Gems are supported by minion damage and minion life rolls more common. You are not likely to roll you're not able to roll the top tier of minion damage support, but you can roll a second tier, and the second tier is still good. This support gem minion damage is not particularly sensitive to gem level, so even if you get the third tier, that's still perfectly useful. In any case, this combination with either with minions that deal fire damage themselves, such as there's quite a lot of them, but some of the popular spectres deal fire damage, and then they can ignite enemies themselves, and then those ignites can then amp up the damage that you deal through Immolate support. Or alternately, with you having one skill in your helmet that is a 4-link plus 2 extra pseudo links, and then using a main skill that ignites enemies. So then this deals a lot more damage. There's a lot of potential here, a lot of options you can use. And I think that in terms of exploring this, we'll have more information when we've got more info about the about the melee overhaul. It may be that people end up wanting to use this in conjunction with things like the Tectonic Slam skill, which deals a lot of fire damage on its own, and then Immolate, and then actually try to get concentrated effect, but none of the minion gems. And in that case, we would not be using a Bound Fossil, and so we're then hoping to get concentrated effect and Immolate, and then just perhaps get some attack rolls as well, because we don't want fire damage to spells in that situation. So maybe we'd use, I think it's a Serrated Fossil for that. More attack modifiers, fewer caster modifiers, and at this point we're looking like Socketed attacks have a chance to crit. Socketed gems are supported by Immolate. This is a solid base. This sort of helmet could be a very solid base for a Tectonic Slam build. That's been Juggernaut usually in the past. Could be a Scion, and who knows what will be available as options once the changes to melee skills happen. There's plenty of ways to convert damage into fire as well, and this will amp up all of that. So I think there's a lot of potential to use this Divination card and the items that it generates pretty well. I'm interested to see what I've missed and what other people are able to come up with. So leave your comments on that below. Otherwise, have a good one.